Hello and welcome to the Conscious Leadership Podcast. My name is Julie Hogbin and I am the creator of the 3 weekly episodes that are produced: Wealth Wednesday, the A to Z of Business on Friday, and a longer content piece or interview on a Monday. If you like what you hear, please share this podcast if you think it would support and help somebody else. Living with contentment and joy and the ego. And what a concept that is for mid-ish 2022 when this is being recorded. We all need to be aware that there are differences between short-term interest and long-term interest, and the consequences of both and how we choose to focus and how we choose to operate. Our behaviours, and generally speaking, the long-term interest is in anything is far more important than the short term. It serves us to remember that there is no absolute and everything is relative. We must be able to judge according to the circumstances and our experience and feelings which are mainly related to our bodies and our minds. It is also wise to remember that mental happiness and mental calmness are beneficial to all, and to consider that although 2 people may face the same kind of tragedy or situation or circumstance, one person will face it more easily than the other due to their own mental attitude and abilities and coping mechanisms. And if you really want to live a happy life, then it's important to pursue the internal and the external means. And what do I mean by that? Personal development and material development. And this is not something you'll hear me say very often, but we can be as personally developed as we can possibly be. And if we do not have a roof over our head and food on the table and warmth when it is freezing cold outside, then when will we be truly happy? And as much as we need the personal development and we do need the material possessions, we also need spiritual development. And spiritual development does not necessarily link, nearly said that, to a religious faith. Spiritual development can relate to the core basic human qualities and characteristics of someone who lives with ethics for a good life, doing good for themselves and for others. We all have the same human potential. And even with a mental or physical impairment, we have huge potential to become far, far, far more than we currently are. When we utilise that potential in the right direction and we utilise the brilliance of the human mind and body and soul, we can create magic rather than creating disasters. We can create happy lives for ourselves, and we can also help and support others to create their happy life. And we have to remember that we all have a naturally creative ability, and sometimes we just need to have to find the switch and turn it on. We need to realise our own potential and accept our own potential and then build. If we do not already have it, the self-confidence in our own ability and potential. And self-confidence is not something that comes to many naturally. Self-confidence is something that can be built, it can be developed, and it can be managed. We can all develop from where we are to where we need to be. When we live with our future in mind, we become the person we need to be to achieve the thing that we want to achieve. We create balance or imbalance in our own lives, and recognising that everything is in balance is an important first lesson in creating a happy life. As a very simple example, if we do not smile, how would we and why would we expect others to smile at us? Most of our outcomes and our results originate from within, and what we put out into the world, generally speaking, is what we receive back. So coming back to the smile, it is illogical to accept smiles from others if we do not smile. And one of the first stages to living a happy life is self-awareness. Now, what do I mean by that? Being aware of our own behaviours, being aware of our own thoughts, being aware of our own habits, being aware of our own unconscious and conscious driving forward forces, which allow us to make judgments, and through which we make judgments, which then allow us to change our behaviours, which allow us to assess and rationalise the situation. So why would we do that? When we think and rationalise, we can think about the potential for our own benefit and the benefit of others. Self-awareness and self-confidence does not always mean that we have to be right. And that thing we are doing, looking at, we are assessing, we are reviewing, has to be a win for us, regardless of any other situation, and the other people at the centre in the scenario as well. And as much as I don't particularly like the phrase win-win, it is something that when we think about win-win and utilise a concept appropriately, many situations that aren't currently a win-win can become one. And believe it or not, on occasions, we don't have to win, we can lose. And as long as we are losing with a conscious forethought of mind, it can help all parties to lead a happier life. And that also doesn't mean that we have to become the doormat because we have lost. Remember, everything is in balance. We win, we lose, and we win-win. Let's think about self-confidence. When we choose to balance that out, and what is balance? So either ends of the spectrum. It could be conceit, or it could be pride, or it could be lack of confidence. One leads to good results and the others potentially leads to not so good results for very different reasons. And maybe this is the point to actually say one of the things that very often comes up in these types of conversations is that people are told they have an ego and the ego got in the way. So let's have a think about this. We all have an ego, all of us. It is neither good nor bad. We need it. And let's look at what that actually means. An ego is a person's sense of self-esteem, self-importance, self-confidence, self-image, self-worth. And our ego is the part of the mind that mediates between the conscious and the unconscious and is responsible for our reality testing and provides us with a sense of personal identity. We need our ego to allow us to continue. We need our ego to get us through things. Ego is not necessarily bad and it is not necessarily good. Everything is in balance. Everything is on a spectrum. One part of my ego says, and my phrase is, I seek to serve, where another part of my ego says, I really can't be bothered to do that today and I'm just going to look after myself. Now, if either one of those egos continuously wins, for want of a better word, I continuously seek to serve, what would happen to me? And if I continuously only thought of myself because I couldn't be bothered about anybody or anything else, what would happen? So once again, I'll say it, and I'll say it again and again, everything is in balance. When we're all out of balance, it can lead to an unhappy life. And then there's a life where we are in balance and happy. We have the ups and the downs, we have the rights and the wrongs, we have the fors and the againsts. So how do we obtain happiness? When you really think about it, what is another word for happiness? Happiness could be that great old belly laugh when we really do throw any caution we may have to the wind and express ourselves in absolute pure joy of finding something funny and laughing with it. Not against people, but with the thing from that pure joy of that childhood state of pleasure and fun. If you think about being happy, much of that comes from the fact that we are content with our lot. We are content with where we are. We are content within our relationship. We are content. Now, of course, contentment and comfortableness, if that's the right word or even a word, if that is a word, comfortableness and contentment can be a preface to not growing and not developing. We need to be slightly discontent with where we currently are, which then takes us to change and how to do that. And you will have heard me say this over and over, and I'll say it again, Nothing sits in isolation. Everything is combined, everything is joined, everything has an effect on everything else. Remember, we are in balance. If we are content, we will also be discontented. If we are happy, we will also be unhappy. And for us as the human being that we are, it is all around and all about how we balance everything in our life and not get hooked into the negative or hooked into the positive without remaining in balance. Life is a joy and life is beauty, and getting that balance right or wrong, as we ultimately do, and recognising when it is right and when it is wrong, leads me to ask you, what do you feed your own mind that leads to thinking about and believing in a happy life, a contented life? And acknowledging that neither will be 100% of the time, and that we will be unhappy at times. And that we will be on occasions discontented. It's perfectly normal. So let me give you an example of something that happened to me the other day. And it could have affected my day. It could have affected the next hour, and I didn't allow it to. I managed to break two, not one, but two crystal champagne glasses the other morning. They fell off a work surface onto the floor and smashed. Now I will say, they were beautiful crystal champagne glasses, and I love crystal. And I will say with a smile on my face, I was not drinking at 9 a.m. in the morning. They were on the side to be hand washed from the night before. In fact, the 2 nights before, because I hadn't done the washing up that day. And I currently don't have a dishwasher, which I highly recommend to everybody listening to this podcast. Now, I could have chosen to allow that scenario, that situation, to make me very unhappy. I could have allowed that situation and that scenario to make me become angry. And please remember, nobody can make you do anything. Nobody can make you feel anything. It is an absolute choice you make. And as much as I was in that initial moment angry at myself because I had knocked them over, nobody else did that. I can only accept personal responsibility for my actions. I could have in that moment been very discontented and very happy. They were very nice glasses, and for that split second, and maybe a little longer than a split second, I was very angry with myself for being so stupid as to knock the glasses off of a counter and allow them to smash to the floor. I didn't even manage to catch one. But with the greater good and the greater vision and the greater everything in my mind, what's the point of being angry? What's the point of being annoyed with myself? What's the point of being unhappy over 2 glasses? What's the point? Yes, they were beautiful, and yes, they have served, and yes, I have enjoyed them, and yes, they can be replaced at a cost if I choose to. They were a material object. And when we replace material objects, of course, the economy of the world goes round. There is a balance in everything we do. There is a balance in everything we think when we are in charge of and in control of our own thought processes. This episode of the Conscious Leadership Podcast has taken a bit of a different route, and I trust it is allowing you to think about what goes on for you, what triggers your emotions, what triggers your thought processes, what triggers your happiness or unhappiness, what triggers your contentment or discontent, what triggers your anger or your joy. Remember, everything will be in balance one way or the other at some point. That's not a prediction of doom, gloom and despondency. It's a prediction of things, technical word, and things happen in life. Life happens. And I wrote an article the other day around the concept of life is a mess. Life is messy. And we go from one mess to the next mess. In reality, there can be 2 people facing the same mess, and depending on the individual, one will look at it and think, that's okay, I can deal with that. Whereas the other one will look at it and collapse into a heap. We are all, through our own personal development, self-development, wisdom, knowledge, intelligence, whatever you want to call it, our experiences throughout life. We are all capable of far more than we can possibly know. And it is our duty to not only serve ourselves, but also to serve others. enabling them to be the best version of themselves they can be. Sometimes that is allowing and creating a shining light on others rather than ourselves. We can put others first, not ourselves. And then on occasions, of course, we put ourselves first and not others. And for some of us, that is a big lesson to learn. All of everything combined enable us to be happy, enables us to be content, enables us to be in balance with the world and with the people in it. There is a reason for everything, and things and people come into our lives for a reason, for a season, or for a lifetime. Not everything is permanent, and not everything is impermanent. Everything is balanced or will be out of balance regardless of what happens. We can all have a life of joy and happiness when we are prepared to realise we do deserve it. And we are the creative genius that we are. Anybody who wants to talk to me about any of this, please reach out and message me. I've got a complimentary call on my Calendly link that you can find on my Instagram Linktree account. So please, if you want to talk about this in more detail, contact me. And of course, if you think this is of value, please tell other people about it. Please share it with people. And if you want more information, please subscribe to this podcast. Thank you and bye for now. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Conscious Leadership Podcast. If you have any questions, please contact me on any one of the social media channels. I'm on most of them, including Clubhouse and YouTube, and my books are on Amazon. If you would like a topic discussed, please tell me. And if you have found this information useful, please share and please leave a review.